Do you feel lucky? Well, do you, punk? Howdy, my name is Nonat, and welcome back to part 2 of the Gunslinger First Impressions. I can hardly call them first impressions at this point because it's, 2 weeks later. But I still haven't looked at all the feats. I haven't had time to look at the playtest because I've been moving into my incredibly open and echoey apartment. That'll get fixed in time. Once we have a bigger bed in here, some more stuff on the walls, it'll get better. For now, I do ask you'll have to put up with the awful echoey. But with that being said, let's jump into the Gunslinger and see what kind of feats they have to offer, because hopefully if you're just finding this video for the first time and you just watched part 1, you'll be watching this right after. To all 9,000 of you who are waiting for part 2, I'm sorry. Starting off with first level, Cover Fire is a single action. So long as you are wielding a loaded crossbow or firearm, you can shoot at one enemy who is already behind cover. That enemy then gets 2 options. They can either take the hit like normal, gaining their +2 from being behind cover, or you give them the option to duck down and take greater cover, increasing their armor class bonus to +4. Now, should they choose to take this armor class bonus by ducking down, they take a -2 circumstance penalty to their ranged attacks until the end of their next turn. So that's why this is cover fire. If the enemy has an archer that's on a wall behind a little barrier and is popping up and firing shots at you, you can start shooting cover fire at this thing, and it can either, take the hit with just its normal +2, or, duck down, which honestly, I feel like most people, if a firearm is being shot at them, will reactively duck to avoid it. They do gain an extra armor class, but their ranged attacks become far less accurate for the rest of their next turn, which allows your melee characters to get a little bit close. This is the first thing we're going to see, which is really interesting, is the support Gunslinger. I've actually tried to record this once in the past, back in the hotel room, but I never quite got finished with it. And I got to about level 6-8 feats. And there is a string of feats that are all about this backup support Gunslinger who makes everyone else's lives easier, and I think it's really cool. Also, there's a ton of these feats, so we're not going to spend too long on all of them. Firearm Ace is literally the same thing as Crossbow Ace for Rangers. Should you reload a firearm, you get a +2 circumstance bonus to your damage roll the next time you shoot with that firearm. And just like Crossbow Ace, if you're using a simple firearm like a flintlock, then your damage die also gets upgraded by 1 step. So this is your I want to do more damage feat, especially if you're using simple firearms. This is fantastic for you. Hit the Dirt, I actually misunderstood the first time I read it, and it's actually a little bit better than I gave it credit for. You can use your reaction, similar to the Rogue's Nimble Dodge, to gain +2 armor class against a triggering ranged attack. Regardless of whether the attack still hits or not, you also get to take a free leap action, which lets you jump 10 feet in one direction. But because this is Hit the Dirt, no matter where you land prone, because you dove, you landed on the ground, you hit the dirt to avoid a ranged attack. It's pretty cool. It's super flavorful, and I like it. What makes it a little more powerful is I thought originally you just got to step, a single action, single 5-foot step, hit the dirt, but you get to make a full leap action. So that is a pretty decent chunk of movement, which as you'll learn just as you play and theorize with the Gunslinger, positioning is everything for the Gunslinger. So being able to move even 10 feet on a reaction is pretty fantastic. And the final level 1 feat with sword and pistol is really interesting because it's a complete passive bonus, similar to Firearm Ace. But this one has 2 activations. Should you shoot and land a hit with a firearm, your next melee weapon strike treats your opponent as if they were flat-footed. Now, simultaneously, should you successfully hit with a melee weapon, your next firearm does not trigger reactions when you make a ranged attack with it. So if you're in melee and you shoot a guy, then you can then attack with your follow-up offhand melee weapon, with them at -2 AC. At the same time, if you're already in melee with someone, you can swing with your sword first, and should you hit, they can't take an attack of opportunity if you point blank pistol shoot them in the face. So some really, really cool stuff. The only downside is it has to be used on that same turn. If you hit them with a sword and then shoot them on your next turn, they still do get an attack of opportunity. But again, this just expands that crazy strategic option that the Gunslinger has. No matter which subclass of Gunslinger you pick, there are so many different things you need to think about. It's amazing. This is a thinking man's class. Big brain time. Level 2's assisting shot, I believe, is how the fighter's assisting shot is supposed to work, but the fighter's assisting shot is not written out very well. The plain and simple is, it's a single action ranged strike with a firearm. If you land a hit, the next person other than you to attack that target gets +1 to their attack roll. Should you critically hit, they'll get +2 to their attack roll. The downside is you're almost never going to critically hit with this because it has the press trait, which means you can only use this action if you already have a multiple attack penalty, which I'm not a huge fan of. I would have preferred if this was a flourish over a press. Not only is the effect, it's not minor, but it's a +1 to hit for one person's single attack against a target if you hit. And the fact that you're already taking a -5 to hit with this attack means you're gonna start missing quite a bit. Even if you have the proficiency of a fighter, a -5 is still really detrimental. So it's cool. I wish it was a flourish instead of a press, but I still like it. And again, it's that support gunslinger line that I'm so interested in. Honestly, if I had more time and there weren't so many feats, I'd talk about all of the controversy around the gunslinger class, but if you've been on the internet, you've seen it. I'm not going to worry about it. Blast Lock. Oh, God. Sorry, I'm allergic to internet drama. Blast Lock is really cool. For a single action from up to 10 feet away, you can use a loaded firearm to shoot and open a lock. Keep in mind, you are not destroying the lock. You are literally picking it with a bullet. You make an attack roll against the lock's normal thievery-style DC, and should you critically succeed, you either open a normal lock or make 2 successes on the way to opening a complex lock. A normal success is 1 step towards a complex lock. A fail or a critical failure actually damages the lock and makes it harder to open, giving you and anyone else a penalty, -2 for a failure, -4 for a critical failure, on all future attempts to open that lock. So it's cool. You're not destroying the lock. Anyone can try to do that, but especially if the lock is not like a padlock, but it's actually just like a single keyhole, you can try to fire directly into it, and the bullet itself manipulates the mechanism. Don't ask me how. It's awesome. And opens the lock. I love it. Pistol Twirl is amazing for almost any gunslinger. You make a deception check to feint against your target, except rather than feint only affecting your melee attacks, should you succeed, feint now makes your target flat-footed to your ranged attacks as well. It's a cool image to picture as well. You're holding out your pistol, and you do a little bit of fake kickback to show you're firing. They sort of duck out of the way, but you didn't actually shoot, and then you just fire right afterwards when they're already thrown off, and they're like, what happened? The funny thing is, should you critically fail your deception check, you become flat-footed against their melee and ranged attacks, which I think is hilarious, because I just picture you holding your pistol, and you go to do a cool little pistol flip, and you accidentally drop it, like you're stumbling all over to grab it again, and you're flat-footed against them, trying to regain your composure. I love this feat. Oh, also, this can only be done with a one-handed firearm, not a two-handed one. So you can't do this with an arquebus or a musket. Quick draw. It's quick draw. Risky reload, in my opinion, is the perfect balance of risk versus reward for trying to skip an action on your turn. Especially being a low-level feat, I think this is perfect. For one action, you can reload and shoot your firearm. Crazy good economy, right? Well, the risky part of risky reload is should you miss at all. If you miss the target's armor class by 1 point, your gun misfires, which means it jams, which means you then need to spend an action removing the jam and an action reloading. So sure, you can remove the jam and risky reload again, but overall, you're going to lose some action economy here, especially because risky reload is a flourish, so you can't risky reload, clear the jam, risky reload, You're going to lose some action economy if you fail this, and I think using your actions as a bet to, risk versus reward is phenomenal and really plays into that old Western style gambler, Red Dead Redemption gunslinger. Warning Shot increases the range of your deception check to a crazy amount depending on your equipped firearm. Normally, Demoralize only has a range of 30 feet. Now, its range increases to 4 times your range increment, or maybe it's 6 times. All weapons have a max range, and it's either 4 or 6 range increments before you just can't reach the target. So if you're using a firearm with a 20-foot range increment, then your Warning Shot now has either an 80 or 120-foot range to demoralize a target. It's crazy, just by firing it up into the air. This also basically frees up a skill feat for you. If you're training in Intimidation, you don't need to take Intimidating Glare, because this also basically includes that, as it ignores the circumstance penalty for not sharing a language with the target. Alchemical Shot is another feat that I really don't know how it works, but it's really freaking cool. Basically, you take your ammo, you take an Alchemist Bomb, you pop the cork on that, drizzle it over your ammo, reload your gun, and fire it, and your gun's entire damage both changes to the element of that bomb and deals an additional 1d6 damage of that bomb's type. So if you use Alchemist Fire, you lace your ammo, you fire it, you do your gun's normal damage, plus an additional 1d6 persistent fire damage. Also, if the bomb's level is 11 or 17, you increase that to 2d6 or 3d6 persistent fire damage. This is some really cool cross-class combo that I think Pathfinder 2e is sincerely missing, and I would love to see a supplement in the future all about feats that interact with things from other classes. I mean, the Alchemist is an easy one. You know, they can make items, they can give items. If you have an Alchemist, they can give you 1 or 2 of their bombs per day, and you can use that for some really special ammunition. Also, I know I said you pour it on, then reload, then shoot, but the 2 action sort of accounts for all of that. Your firearm already needs to be loaded, and for 2 actions, you apply it and strike. So it's 2 actions to, technically a reload is a 3rd action. So if you start your turn without a loaded firearm, this will be a 3 action activity. But if you're already loaded, you can do it 2 actions. Oh, also, if you misfire with Alchemical Shot, you take 1d6 damage of the appropriate element. Black Powder Boost is stupid and cool and amazing. Should you take the leap action and jump either vertically or horizontally, you can use your reaction to fire off a loaded firearm that you have wielded to gain 10 feet of distance in any direction, whether that be forward or up, meaning you can now jump about 16 feet easily with this ability. Additionally, you can wait to learn if you fail or succeed before even using the reaction. So this is great mid-combat. If you need to jump a 10-foot gap, you happen to roll a 9, just barely not making that 10 feet, and you use your reaction to make sure you clear it. You're totally fine. It's rocket jump. It's really cool. Running reload. It's running reload, and it's really good for gunslingers. Cauterize is super metal and really cool. For a single action, if you are holding a firearm that you fired this turn, you can press it to yourself or an adjacent ally to get an easy DC medicine check to end the persistent bleed damage they might be suffering. So if you got gutted and you're taking 1d6 persistent bleed damage, you can shoot someone with your pistol, look at it, and just press the barrel into your wound to cauterize the bleeding. Oh, so good! Pistolero's challenge is pretty simple. For a single action, you take a deception or intimidation check against 1 target. There's only 2 results, normal success and critical failure. Should you normal fail, nothing happens. Should you succeed in your check, both you and the target both gain +2 bonus to damage against each other. This increases to +3 and +4 if you're a master or legendary in either of those 2 skills, respectively. Now, this challenge lasts until basically the fight's over. One of you dies, one of you gives up, etc. You can also challenge a new target to end the effect on the original target. Now, should you critically fail, you actually get scared of your opponent, causing you to be frightened 1, and you cannot use the ability again for a full minute. The last little bit, which is really, really nice, is that should you use this on somebody, they become immune to it. Not for a full day, not for 24 hours, but you can't use Pistolero's challenge on the same target until noon of the following day. It's Reloading Strike, the feat everyone says the Drifter is completely useless without. It's a single action, melee strike, and reload. You can swing with your melee weapon and reload your firearm, all for a single action. It's great. It's really, really good. I don't think the Drifter needs it to be useful, but it is solid. If you're just looking for pure maximum DPS and attacks per round, Reloading Strike will be the way to go. Also, you don't need a free hand to reload this way. That's another big thing that people complain about, is if you're holding a gun and a dagger, you can't reload your gun. Oh no. Scatterblast is okay. Currently, the only scatter firearm we have with a scatter trait is the Blunderbuss, and that has a range of 15 feet. Meaning you hit your target to deal full damage, and then everything in a 15-foot cone takes 1 extra damage per weapon damage dice. With Scatter Blast, this effectively doubles your range. On the blunderbuss with a 15-foot range, it increases the cone to 30 feet, but this does not give you any extra targets. You can still only hit one target in that 30-foot cone for the maximum damage, and then everything in that 30-foot cone takes, 1 or 2 damage, depending on your weapon damage dice. Now, in the right circumstance, this can lead to upwards of, 10, 15, maybe even 20 extra damage if, you have an extra weapon damage die and there's a lot of targets in this cone. But unfortunately, it's really not typically worth the risk. Now granted, this does also increase the base range of the gun, doubling that to 30 feet effectively, doubles your max range, which is really good, but if you even normal miss with this shot, your gun misfires, meaning, clean out the jam, reload, then you can shoot again. And it's already a 2-action activity. On top of that, should you critically fail your attack, your weapon breaks, your blunderbuss explodes in your face and becomes a mini fireball. You and every single target within 20 feet of you, including allies, all take damage equal to your weapon's damage die. So if you've got a 2d6 blunderbuss, well, you and everyone around you are taking 2d6 points of shrapnel damage with a reflex save. So it's cool, it might let you reach a target you couldn't normally reach, and it also might increase your damage a little bit, but the failures are really, really rough. Shattering Shot is so stupid and it's so cool. You need a loaded firearm and an alchemical bomb. For one action, you toss the bomb into the air, and right when it's above any corner of a square, you shoot it. It does need to be within your weapon's first range increment though, which means if you're using an arquebus, you can toss this thing 80 feet away and fire it there. Then, every single creature in a 15-foot burst of the bomb takes splash damage equal to the amount of precision damage you gain from the sniper's one-shot, one-kill feature. I believe at level 6 this is 2d6, so this is like a little mini fireball you can do as many times as you have alchemical bombs. You toss this little bomb, you shoot it, and it just rains down 2d6 on every single enemy in a 15-foot burst for one action. Something important to keep in mind is this does not have an attack roll. This does not have a saving throw. It is a flourish, so you can only do it once per round. But there is no, unless they have a resistance or immunity, there is no negating this damage. You throw the bomb, it explodes, they take your one-shot, one-kill damage. All of them. So if you can regularly hit 3 targets with this, that is a single action for 6d6 damage once per round, as long as you have a bomb. Absolutely insane. The only downside is you need to be a little careful, because it will also hurt your allies. Grit and Tenacity is just a really good reaction. Should you fail a Fortitude or Will save, once per hour you can use your reaction to roll it again. This is fantastic if you already don't have a reaction as a gunslinger, you didn't take Hit the Dirt or anything early on, and you just need something to do off your turn. Fantastic. Oh, it's also at +2. Did I mention that? That's kind of important. At first glance, Paired Shots seems kind of weak. It's very comparable to the fighter's Double Shot at level 2, which just for 2 actions lets you shoot twice. That's pretty much it. But you look a little bit closer. Now the big thing, they're both the same. Both the fighter's Double Shot and the gunslinger's Paired Shots are at the same multiple attack penalty. And, Paired Shots is level 8, Double Shot is level 2. But Double Shot inflicts a -2 penalty on both of those shots. Whereas if you read Paired Shots, there is no penalty on either of these. So you fire both bullets at the same multiple attack penalty, which is probably your maximum. On top of that, the damage is added together, so if they have a resistance of any kind, it only applies once to the entire thing of damage, which again, you have you're master by this point. That's 2 master proficiency firearm strikes at full multiple attack penalty. Absolutely insane. You can do this with crossbows too, by the way. Keep that in mind. Just they have to be one-handed. But again, because firearms rely so much on critical hits and that fatal trait, if both of those crit, the amount of damage is going to be staggering. Return fire is fantastic and turns your Hit the Dirt into an attack of opportunity back at the shooter. Should you, use your hit the dirt reaction, leap, dive, gain your armor class bonus, you can then immediately, as part of that reaction, make a full attack bonus return fire on the target. Now keep in mind, you do need to have a loaded firearm or crossbow for this to work, so if you take this feat, you almost want to end every single turn, ideally, with a loaded firearm. But, it's just really cool. This upgrades an existing reaction, which you don't see that too often. A lot of feats will give you new options. It's rare you find one that directly upgrades, and this is a phenomenal upgrade. Shooter's Aim, I have an intrinsic problem with, and I should message Paizo in the playtest because I haven't done that yet. Unless you're watching this video. Hi, Paizo. Shooter's Aim is not too strong, but it's too required. If you are a sniper using an arquebus or any future firearm that has the unsteady trait, you have to take this feat. There's almost no choice. It's rare that I say this, and usually I'll be like, oh, that feat's good, but you don't need it. Shooter's Aim, you need it. Just as a quick refresher, the arquebus is basically a sniper with the unsteady trait, meaning if you don't spend a second action on your strike, you are at -2 to your attack roll. So already on your turn, unless you have the ability to set down a tripod to balance it for the future attacks, you're already spending 2 actions to shoot, to steady and fire your arquebus at your full penalty. Shooter's Aim just lets you do that exact same thing with a bonus +2 to hit. Using these 2 actions, you get that +2, you ignore any creature's concealed condition, which is already really, really good, and like I said, it ignores the unsteady trait on your weapon. So anyone using an arquebus would be hard-pressed not to take this feat, because like I said, they're already spending 2 actions to shoot at their normal penalty, so they might as well spend 2 actions to shoot with a +2. I don't think it's overpowered, it's just in this weird place with its interaction with the unsteady trait. A person with an arquebus isn't going to take return fire, they're going to take Shooter's Aim because it just makes them completely better. And in the design philosophy of Pathfinder 2e, from my experience, feats aren't designed to directly upgrade your core concept. They're typically designed to expand your options, give you new abilities and new things to do in battle and outside of battle, but never to directly upgrade. There's not a fighter feat that says gain +2 to all attack rolls. Because everyone would take it. That wouldn't be great feat design because it's too universally good. And that's the problem with Shooter's Aim. I think there needs to be some restriction or some change or something. Maybe even just say, make it a passive that you ignore the unsteady trait. You don't need to activate it, you don't need to do anything, but you just don't need to steady your weapon anymore. That's good. It's not overpowered. It's saving 1 action per round, which is great. And this is a level 8 feat. To save 1 action on steadying. That's not bad, but it's also something people can already do with a tripod. So I do think Shooter's Aim is too good. I think it's too good. I think a passive that allows you to ignore the unsteady trait might be better, but I could be wrong. I'm not a game designer. I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comments. But moving on, I've spent way too much time on this. Smoke Curtain is okay. I have only one problem with it, but first, it's a 2-action ability. You load special ammo into your firearm, and you shoot the ground beneath you, and a 20-foot burst of smoke emits. Everything inside the smoke is concealed from outside the smoke, and everything outside the smoke is concealed. If you're inside the smoke, everything's concealed from you, and if you're outside the smoke, everything in the smoke is concealed from you. I hope any of that made sense. The smoke only lasts for 1 round, and should you critically miss with this attack, your gun misfires. For 2 actions, this is not that strong, but I think it could be fixed with one simple option. Allow you to target any square as the center. Rather than focusing it only on yourself, let it be like, I don't know if you've ever played League of Legends, there's Graves' little smoke grenade which fires and lands and spins, and everything inside is invisible. I think that's really cool. I think that's what this should be. If your rogue is staring down a Cyclops about to clobber him, you can fire your smoke curtain directly between them, allowing your rogue to become concealed and sneak out of there without the Cyclops being able to chase him down. I think that would be phenomenal. But because you can only aim it on yourself by default, I don't think this is great. I think that would just be a really cool option. Just shoot any square. Called Shot. I'm pretty sure this is the exact same feat that rogues get. It might be rogue, it might be ranger, I'm not sure. But when you attack somebody, you pick a specific part of the body, and should you successfully hit them or critically hit them, you get a bonus effect. Should you hit their arm, they're enfeebled too until the end of their next turn. Sorry, the end of your next turn, so that's even better. And all of these effects have the same critical hit feature, which is if you critically hit after the initial effect wears off, like the enfeebled 2 from an arm strike, they are then enfeebled 1 for an extra minute. Same with that, if you hit the head, they're stupefied 2 for 1 round, and then stupefied 1 for 1 minute. Legs inflict a 10-foot status penalty to speed, and then a -5 for 1 minute. And then if you shoot the wings, they fall for 20 feet or 40 feet on a critical hit, and I'm sad about this part, but no matter if it's a normal crit or a normal hit or a normal crit, should you shoot their wings, they will not take any fall damage. They will always fall slow enough to land gracefully on the ground and never, dive bomb into a head first, which I think would be fun. Deflecting Shot is cool. It's a reaction similar to that of the Swashbuckler. Should an ally within the first range increment of your firearm or crossbow be hit by an attack, you can shoot your weapon at the attacker to deflect the attack. This just translates into a +2 armor class for your ally. You also get to know whether or not it would make it successful or fail. So, if your rogue is getting targeted with a 20 armor class and they're being attacked by something with a 21 attack roll, well, you can use your reaction to increase your rogue's armor class to 22. Now, this would make it a success, which means you could use it. But similar to how the Swashbuckler works, if your rogue has an armor class of 20 and they're getting attacked by an attack roll of 22, your reaction would not work, as it would only increase their armor class to 22 and the attack would still hit, so you actually cannot use it in this case. You can only use it if it will change the result of the attack. Redirecting Shot is sort of the opposite. Your ally makes a ranged attack, and you see it's going to miss. You can use your reaction to shoot your ally's ranged attack in midair to redirect it and aim it at the target, to correct it. With this reaction, you make an attack roll as well, and your ally then uses your attack roll instead of their own. And remember that gunslingers have master proficiency at this point, while everyone else is an expert. You combine this reaction with something like a precision ranger, and you're basically giving the ranger your proficiency bonus. You get to make the attack roll, but it's still their damage. It's absolutely insane, and this can lead to some really cool wombo combos between teammates, which again, like I said earlier in the video, I want to see more of that. I want to see more of this cross-class assisting with each other and their own unique features being given to other classes. I think it's really, really cool. Trick Shot is cool, and I think the more creative you and the more creative your GM are, the more mileage you're going to get out of this feat. For 2 actions, you can shoot not your target, but a nearby object. It gives an example of, like a crystal ball on a table, or maybe a barrel full of explosive, volatile alcohol. For 2 actions, you make an attack roll against a base armor class of 25. This can be higher at your GM's discretion. And should you succeed, you make something happen. The 2 options it gives here is that you can shoot an object and move it 10 feet in any direction, which is really cool that you have control over it. It doesn't need to be less than 2 bulk. Or if you can shoot something explosive, it makes a fireball on its location. So if you can shoot that barrel, it will be, 6d6 damage with a basic reflex save of your class DC. This damage even scales with your level by 1d6 every 2 levels. Basically, this gives the gunslinger a fireball option, which again, there can be some cool wombo combos where, your 18-20 strength berserker just keeps a keg of alcohol on his back at all times, so he can place it down, run, and then you just fire it and blow everyone up with this cool fireball spell done entirely with martial classes, and I think that's so rad. An important thing about this feat is for GMs to not forget about it, and again, it's from table to table. I like to design my games around my players. So if I have a gunslinger with Trick Shot, yeah, maybe there will be a barrel of really crappy grog in the goblin camp that will explode if you should shoot it. Glancing Shot is similar to the Swashbuckler's ability with a different name but the same effect. It's a single action press attack that, should you fail the attack, you still deal all of the damage except for your weapon damage dice. So, this is okay on a gunslinger. It was great on the swashbuckler because the swashbucklers have a class feature that adds bonus damage, and they might have, some points in strength to add to that. A firearm, unfortunately, does not have any stat bonus associated with its damage. Most of the firearm's damage does come from its damage dice. This is okay on the sniper, the Way of the Sniper subclass, because that should still add the precision damage from one shot, one kill with this. Otherwise, this one's pretty tough. I thought at first, maybe you could get like a flaming rune on there, or even the fatal trait on the weapon would still proc if you critically hit with this. I mean, it's a fail, so never mind, no you wouldn't, but it excludes all damage from the base damage dice, any runes, any spells on the weapon, any special abilities, and the special ability makes me think even one shot, one kill wouldn't apply. So I don't actually know who or what this is for. I haven't had the time to really completely theorize this class. This is still pretty much first impressions. So let me know in the comments if there's anything cool you can do with Glancing Shot, because I'm personally not aware of anything. Incredible Ricochet is okay. It is another press action, so you can't use it until you have a multiple attack penalty, but if you've already fired at a target, you can then fire at them and ignore their cover. Now, where this does combine really, really well is with cover fire. Should you use cover fire as your opening action and they choose to duck down, they get +4 against that initial attack. But then you can follow that up with Incredible Ricochet. You cover fire, reload Incredible Ricochet, and you completely ignore their cover. Sure, you're at a -5 from your multiple attack penalty, but you're negating a +4 from greater cover, and you inflicted a penalty to their ranged attacks. This is an awesome build for a gunslinger who just wants to take out enemy backlines and completely ignore, safety precautions they've taken. Really sneak in that cheap damage. I like it. Penetrating fire is similar to paired shots from earlier, the one that required 2 pistols, but this can be used with any firearm or crossbow. So long as 2 enemies are right next to each other and, a direct line between them, you can shoot, make 1 attack roll compared to both armor classes, and roll damage against both of them. So like I said, very similar. It's effectively 2 attacks at the same multiple attack bonus, typically your full one, so it's good. It's the same effect typically as the other one, except, higher level and less restrictions. Shooter's camouflage is kinda crazy. You either pick urban or natural, and you can hide and sneak without cover. Have fun, GMs. True Grit is a direct upgrade to the Grit and Tenacity reaction, which was the one that gave you +2 and a reroll on a failed Fortitude or Will save, and now, should you reroll into a normal success, you critically succeed instead. And should you reroll into a critical failure, you normal fail instead. That's a fantastic upgrade. Alright, I haven't read this yet, but Dance of Thunder is apparently the big, oh my god, so powerful feat for gunslingers. So let's check this out. For 3 actions, once per minute, if you are wielding a loaded firearm, your steps echo with the thunderous retort of exploding black powder as you dance a dance of death. Use any of the following actions you choose in any order: step, strike, and reload. If you attempt a strike and it succeeds, you can repeat these again in any order. If you attempt a strike in a second set and succeed, you can repeat it again. That's it. So this is really good. This is effectively, in a perfect world, 9 actions for 3 actions. If you can step, stride, strike... Oh, sorry, you can't stride. So if you step, strike, reload, step, strike, reload, step, strike, reload, that's incredible economy. But keep in mind, you do still have a multiple attack penalty for this. It doesn't say these are all made at the same MAP. So the chance of doing it again does get less and less. And if you step, strike, reload, step, strike, even if you hit your first attack, this is 6 actions for 3 actions. If you only land 1 hit, you can still step, strike, reload, step, strike, miss, reload, because you get to perform all 3 actions. That's really good. But keep in mind you do become fatigued for 1 minute. This inflicts a -1 penalty to your armor class and saving throws for effectively the rest of the encounter. So this is sort of your ultimate move, You might want to save this to end the encounter. Honestly, when there's only one enemy left and you can just fire off repeatedly at them, that'd be really, really cool. I like this. I don't think it's overpowered at all, honestly, because in a perfect scenario, if this goes incredibly perfect, this is 3 strikes, 3 steps, and you end the turn reloaded. It's not bad. It's really good. And I like that you can do it in any order, so even if you begin your turn unloaded, you can Dance of Thunder, reload, step, strike, reload, step, strike, reload, step, strike. It's good. It's not broken, but it's good. Showstopper. I think this is a little too high level, but it's a direct upgrade to Pistol Twirl, which lets you feint against all targets you can see, so long as they're within your weapon's first range increment. Now, the downside is, remember, Pistol Twirl only works with one-handed weapons, and they don't have the longest range. I think the dueling pistol might have a range of 30. So, this is, take the feint action against, all targets in a 30-foot burst. That's not nothing. That's good. And if you critically succeed, your allies get bonuses as well. But, level 14 feels a bit high. 2-weapon flurry is okay. Again, really high level to get this, especially because, again, they don't share a multiple attack penalty. Yeah, this is okay at best. It pales in comparison to paired shots. It's nice if you want a better melee option. If you use your firearms, you get in close and pull out your melee weapons, you can start swinging fast. That's really cool. You can also shoot with 2 firearms, but why would you take this and not paired shot? I feel like even at level 14, I would still take paired shot over this if I hadn't gotten it yet. Unless I'm missing something. It is 1 action instead of 2, I guess, but it's the press action, so you're already at a multiple attack penalty. I don't know. Fatal Bullet. Strike your enemy's most vulnerable areas. Should you critically hit an opponent, this is passive by the way, at any time should you critically hit an opponent with a firearm that has the fatal trait, and they all do, you add an additional fatal damage die. Let me put this into perspective. Let's say you're using the Arquebus, which is a 1d8 with fatal d12. You're level 16. Let's say you have major striking, so it's 3d8 fatal d12. Should you critically hit with that, you're now dealing 5d12 damage instead of 3d8 plus 1d12. No, sorry, 8d12, because you double the 3d8. They all get upgraded to d12s, and then you add 2 more d12s from the fatal and this feat. That's insane. 8d12 damage is a thing of beauty. And remember, this class has fighter weapon proficiency level, so you are legendary at this point. You're critting left and right. This is nasty, dude. Hair Trigger is really cool. It is only available to the Drifter and the Pistolero because they can both draw their weapon during initiative. Now, with this feat, if your weapon is already out, you can strike with it during initiative. Before the fight has even started, you get a free shot off with your weapon of choice. Not only that, but should you hit the target, then they are flat-footed until the end of your first turn. That means if you go last in initiative and they go first, sure, they get to move first, but they're not just flat-footed to you. They're flat-footed to everybody until the end of your first turn in combat. You actually want to roll low initiative with this so that all of your allies can go before you and capitalize on the flat-footed chump. Make your rogue squee in joy with the free sneak attack round 1. This is phenomenal. Absolutely incredible. Really, honestly, I think this is really equally fair with the fatal, vital, critical hit bonus. I think they're both really, really good. Instant return. I think this is the really cool, stupid one people were angry about. Yes. Should an enemy miss you with a ranged attack with an ammunition related to your weapon? So, if you're using a firearm, it has to be a bullet. If you're using a crossbow, it has to be a bolt. You catch it. You Bruce Lee catch this thing out of midair, load it into your unloaded firearm, and fire it back. And because it's the opponent's ammunition, let's say they had alchemical shot and they fired a flaming bullet at you. You catch it, reload it, and fire a flaming bullet back at the original target. This is so cool. Why are people mad about this? This is so cool. Like, it's similar to the monk one where they can catch it and throw it back. I think it's a little bit higher level, but it's my god, it's so cool. And it uses your weapon's damage. So it uses their ammunition, but remember, it's your weapon. And in the Pathfinder universe, all firearms use the same black powder ammunition, so you can catch a pistol bullet, load it into your arquebus, and fire it back out with a longer range increment and a higher damage die. This is so cool, and I love it. Level 16 for a gunslinger is tough for which feat you want, because all three of these are amazing. Instant return is obviously less good if you already have stuff like Hit the Dirt or True Grit. Alright, getting on near the end, Piercing Critical at level 18. 19s are automatic critical successes, unless it would be a failure. I think Barbarians and Fighters both get this. Yeah, a 19 now functions exactly like a 20, except unless you fail or critically fail, it does not bump that up a step. Should you roll a 19 and hit your target, it is a critical hit. Gross. Combine this with Fatal Bullet from earlier. Now, Unerring Shot, once again, is crazy powerful. So long as you are using a ranged weapon with which you are master or greater, range increments do not reduce your accuracy. So should you use an arquebus with an 80-foot range increment, you can now shoot over 400 feet away at no penalty. Also, lesser cover grants your target no bonus, and greater cover only grants the bonuses of lesser cover. Alright, let's end this off strong with some level 20 feats. Come on, Gunslinger, you have not let me down so far. Let's see some solid level 20 feats. Perfect readiness. You are quickened, and you can step or reload with it. That's fine. That's actually really good. That gets you a guaranteed, reload, shoot every round. Or shoot, reload. It's fantastic. I don't know why I didn't expect it. Every martial class like this typically gets a quickened feat. I like it. And Slinger's Reflexes gives you an additional reaction. Alright, some boring level 20 feats. They're powerful, don't get me wrong. These are fantastic feats, but they are a little bit boring. Slinger's Reflexes is fine. You can throw back bullets more often. I don't think it's quite as good as the Swashbuckler's additional reaction, because Swashbuckler reactions are just nice. But overall, they're good. And that is the Gunslinger. Oh my word, I'm glad I made this into a second part, because I've been recording for an hour. This is a cool class. This is amazing. It's a fighter with ranged weapon proficiency, but not melee, with some really cool unique feats, some support lines. People have been saying, why wasn't this just an archetype, or why wasn't this just a subclass of fighter or ranger? I hard disagree. This has its own personality. This brings something unique to the table. So much strategy. Like, a lot of people might look at it and be like, oh, okay, you just shoot things. That's it. No. There's a lot more to this class. This class is almost like a swashbuckler at range. You dance, you move, you have limited range with your weapons. You don't have a 100-foot range increment like a longbow. Unless you're using an arquebus, you're 40-foot range increment or less. That's short. You gotta be in there. I love it. I love this a lot. Good job, Paizo. There's a few things here and there I would love to see updated. The steady shot, whatever unsteady trait feat, I think should be changed a little bit. But other than that, I'm very happy. So thank you all so much for watching. My patrons are going to scroll right here real fast. And I'm going to thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comment your thoughts on the Gunslinger, good or bad. I want to hear what you think, your issues, your concerns, what you love about it. Let me know. I should be right back here tomorrow, probably just as echoey, and I apologize for that. I hope you didn't deter you from the video too much. I hope you were able to enjoy it. So thank you all so very much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And until next time, no nat ones.